to the mountains and under the scorching sun, over the rivers, even when the waves roll on. God, I said I would follow by faith today and tomorrow. It's story time. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Yanta, and it's been a long time. I think it's been like a whole 6 months or 7 since I last posted anything, because it was last year December. And this video will commence season 2 of my butterfly story, which is really just me telling or sharing about my experiences throughout my faith walk journey. Okay. Butterfly story in general started in 2019, where I always felt like I met strangers and they would tell me their stories, and it was always something amazing that took a big leap of faith. And I just wanted to have a platform to have women in particular share, their story where they had to do something spectacular and it took faith or a lot of tenacity to do it. I never had any intention of sharing my own butterfly story, but that year, 2019, post butterfly story, was such a crazy year that last year summer, so a year from now, I felt the need to share my butterfly story. And why butterfly? Because butterfly goes through a process of transformation or metamorphosis, if you will, where, they start out as a little worm, they go into a cocoon, what seems like darkness, and then they come out on the other side with wings and they take flight. So that transformation, that metamorphosis is what made me choose a butterfly. And then their story, their individual story, makes it a butterfly story. And because this is my personal story, so it becomes my butterfly story. Anyway, so this actually last year around this time, the first week of July 2021, was when I decided to launch my butterfly story. It's also the thing that helped me, what's the word? The niche that helped me understand what my YouTube channel is really about. Just a platform to share a faith walk journey and hope that it inspires somebody, encourages somebody, and helps somebody go into their journey or help somebody stay in their journey of faith walking. And again, a year from that time, I released my first butterfly story, and the first season of me sharing my story about my faith walk. I'm back to share season 2 of my butterfly story. And before doing this, literally, I was literally so nervous. I don't know why. You would think I've never gotten in front of a camera before, but here we are. So I have my little notes with me. And so let's recap, last season, we talked about why I went on a faith journey, what started the faith journey, and how far I've gotten. And at the end of that finale of the season 1, it was end of 2019, I think. Yeah, end of 2019. I had moved in with my sister somewhere in Georgia. Well, she was already in Georgia. She moved closer to where I was. We moved in together. That was also the year where I was homeless twice. And I thought I was settled. I was excited. And I was ready to apply for jobs again. Thought I was going to go back to Tyler Perry Studio some way, somehow. And yeah, I was ready to finish the year, and New Year comes in, and I had by this point, written Generations After 3. I started, reaching out to the returning cast members, and, I was doing my vision board, had a whole plan set out on the wall and everything. I don't know what happened. I think I was doing my devotion, and somewhere I felt convicted that I made plans without consulting God. And in that conviction, I started praying, and I felt like God told me to cancel Generation After 3. So I did. This had been maybe about end of January, beginning of February. and I didn't know why, but I was literally very upset because it's like I'm finally settled. You send me into filmmaking. Now we have this story that everybody's waiting for, continuing for it, and you tell me to cancel it. Is this like punishment because I made the plans without you? Little did I know, we're talking about New Year 2020. You guys know how 2020 was. We were about to go shut down. So I would have made all these plans, potentially spend money I don't have, and we would have to cancel the film to begin with because we weren't to shut down by March. And between that cancellation, end of January, and the pandemic, obviously I'd been praying about what's next because God just asked me to cancel what I thought was next. So what is it that you're trying to tell me? I had been hearing a lot of words. I had been exposed to some new YouTube ministries, and I had been hearing a lot about moving. And I just ignored all of them because I was never planning to move to Georgia. I did that. It was crazy. I'm finally settled in a nice house. I'm trying to figure out what's next, and I'm hearing about moving. Like, who are you talking to? Like, I think at one point, I literally, in my devotion, was like, God, who are you talking to? It can't be me because you're not talking to me because I'm not moving to go nowhere. And I think it was like about the beginning of the pandemic, like the beginning of shutdown. And I was on the volunteer platform for an artist, and they were talking about moving too. So I was like, why is everyone talking about moving? Like, what's going on? And then that day I went and I decided I was gonna go into a fast. That was my first time going into a fast the way that I did it, and I was going to inquire. I was going to inquire of God what was going on. So I started the fast about March. I think I did it for 5 days, 3 times a day, where I was taking communion on my own. I was praying, and I did this by myself. I want to say somewhere in that fast, I had a dream, y'all. Y'all know there's always a dream. They've gotten more intense. I had a dream, and I'm going to tell you guys the dream. So the dream was, it looked like I was at an event that I was in charge of, almost kind of like a convention or a conference. And in the hotel hallway where we're either holding the event, I was pregnant, and there was another pregnant woman who was like on the other end, away from where my hotel room would have been. She, I don't know, I guess I knew her, but there was an understanding that her baby was being fussy in her stomach. And so I laid hand on her stomach, and she was like, oh my gosh, it feels so calm. And then I think I gave her a hug, like hugging her stomach, and kind of like, I don't know if I was praying, but whatever is it that I was doing was soothing her, and it was calming the baby down. And she was like, oh my gosh. So it was time for me to leave. She was like, please don't leave. And it's like, well, I can't stay here forever. I have to go handle my own business. So I walked away, and I walked away to a gray door that I knew was my hotel room because I had key pass to it. But right before I opened the door, my baby was suffocating me. Like, you know, like sometimes the baby will move, but it was moving under my chest where I couldn't breathe. And I remember I took my hand and I physically moved the baby down, said, move, you hurting mommy. And I could feel on the wall of my, I don't even know what to call it, like, it's like the wall of my stomach, that's like, would be the back. I don't know how to say it. Like the baby literally scraping me like somebody was like scratching, right? So I'm assuming the baby. And then once I did that, I opened the door, and when I opened the door, there was like, I don't remember how many kids, but there was at least 2 toddlers on their diapers jumping up and down the bed. And on the left, it was a small hotel room, 1 bed, a small hotel room, nothing more than 100 and something square feet. Remember that. And then my husband was sitting where it looks like it was a small desk, and at least in the dream I knew it was my husband, and I'm looking at him. And the way I'm looking at him that way is because I'm like, you just sitting there letting those kids jumping down the bed like that. I didn't say anything, and then the dream ended. When I woke up, I misunderstood that dream. I misunderstood it as something physically or healing physically regarding being able to have children. I will maybe one day tell you guys why I said that. And I went and told everybody, like, oh my gosh, I think I had a dream. I think God healed me, blah, 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 blah. I guess we shall see. That ended up not being, because the key point I was looking for that is my menstrual cycle being regular. And the reason why I thought it was that is because it looked like my menstrual came, but it was just spotting, and then it didn't really come how I thought. So it was like, okay, maybe I misunderstood that dream. I don't know what it meant. I left that alone. And then I started having more dreams about, not about, no, I had another dream where I woke up in the middle of the dream and I was saying, Geneva, Geneva. I'm like, what the heck is Geneva? Geneva in Italy? And I was like, am I going to go to Italy? This doesn't make any sense. Then I kept having other dream where the artists whose platform I volunteer with, I kept seeing them. One of them of the dream was I was in a boat and he was in a boat. And he saw me and then he came to my boat. And I think I had 2 boat dreams in water, and none of it was making sense to me. What finally made me realize that this was God, because I was asking God about what's next, right? I had been ignoring the fact that about hearing about moving or being relocated, and I go on this fast expecting an answer, and these are what I'm getting throughout the fast or after. It wasn't until the end of the fast I was finishing the book Crushing. Mind you, I bought this book since summer 2019. Yeah, summer 2019. Right in the middle of this crazy wilderness when I was like Airbnb hopping. I bought that book then. So I'm finishing this book. We're talking about spring 2020. And the chapter that I just happened to be reading, one of the pages was talking about, at the end of that page was talking about sometime when God is trying to do something in your life, he will relocate you. And then the next page, I sent it to my friend. She was like, it seems as clear as day to me. And the next page, I think, or the next few pages, I don't remember. I will find it and I'll put it for you guys. Was talking about different things that happen in different cities. And I think it named 3 different cities. I want to say France, somewhere else, and Chicago. Now, there's many cities and states all over the world. There's many in the United States. I just thought it was strange that the only city that the book mentioned was Chicago. And the reason why Chicago was important was because the artist that I kept seeing on the boat is from Chicago. So I'm like, I'm moving to Chicago? So you're saying I am moving, but I'm moving to Chicago. Chicago? I heard nothing but bad thing about Chicago. And the only time I ever even had a thought about Chicago was maybe potentially marriage. And it's like, I always felt like whoever I'm going to marry is going to come to Atlanta. Like they're moving to Atlanta because God sent me to film school. I'm in Atlanta. Atlanta is the Black Hollywood. Whoever is it I'm going to be with, it's going to be in Atlanta or is moving to Atlanta. Well, I'm moving to Chicago. So it was very confusing. But once the book was the last thing for me, and it wasn't until maybe after that book I realized the dream about the baby and me moving it may have been a symbolic thing, because I finally thought like, wait, sometimes pregnancy means you're birthing something, and children or babies can sometimes represent blessings. And maybe the reason why it was suffocating me, because where it was located, it wasn't supposed to be there, meaning my blessing. And me physically moving it meant I had to physically move my blessing, to be, in the right space before birthing, right? So that was where I finally was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm moving. So I think I finally told my mom this, and she was like, what? I don't have any money, y'all. Remember, I spent a lot of 2019 going through hell and back. I'm finally settled And I'm thinking this is where I'm staying. I had been looking for jobs in Atlanta and it's whatever. And I thought I had gotten a job with a company called Lasso where well, not thought, I did, but they hadn't any event yet because we were in the middle of a pandemic. We were shutting down. So I didn't have any money. I didn't have money to move. I didn't have money to take care of myself. So like, how is this move going to happen? So when I told my mom, she was like, how? I told her this, and I quote myself, if that's what God wants to do, he's going to have to provide. So we're just going to watch. So all I could do was keep praying, and I started looking for spaces here. I started looking for jobs in Chicago, and I'm not finding anything. And I'm looking and looking and looking. I think eventually I found a job in Chicago. And cool, I found an intern in Chicago, and that was cool. But how am I going to move? So I was looking for places and places and places, and how am I going to pay for this? Eventually, I was following a lady, one of the lady I was following, who's really big on letting us know what's going on around the world, around the states, rules, regulation, prophetically. And I haven't seen where she's wrong. She was talking about, a lot of people are going to have to apply for like, what was it? It's some funding that was going on. And I didn't think I was qualified, so I was going to apply. But after listening to her, she convinced me to at least try. So I tried, not expecting anything. But, I was like, I'm just going to apply and tell the truth, and God will do whatever he wants. I was denied. I was denied. And she was like, you have to keep trying. You have to keep trying. You have to keep trying. So when I did my interview, they convinced me, the interview for the funding, they convinced me to apply for something else that was similar but not the same, only because I did apply for a job. I got the job, and because the job did not start because of the pandemic, I was now qualified for pandemic funds. So I applied for that, and then when they sent me the approval letter, they were like, I was qualified from this period of time until that period of time, so I could go back and claim all of those, which I did, and that ended up being a lump sum of money that happened all at once. That's how I was able to move. But before I even got the funding, I was supposed to go to an event that had already purchased the ticket. That obviously was canceled, so I had flight credit. So that flight credit is what I used to buy my flight to Chicago. So I bought that before I had any funding. Was looking for apartments. I think I finally found an apartment, and I had been looking for days for apartment. Finally, as I was searching, I found a gray door. No, the first thing that attracted me was a red fridge, and then I saw the gray door, and I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? Then I remember the dream where I was pregnant at the convention, and my door, the hotel room door, was gray. And when I got in, and I had to move the baby, and then the hotel room with looked like my spouse, with the kids jumping up and down the bed. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the gray door in my dream. How? So I was like, this has to be the apartment I'm supposed to apply for. So I took up a leap of faith and applied. And I had to, and I got approved. I didn't have the money, and there was a deadline, but I eventually got approved, and then the money eventually hit right on time. And I was able to do my first month payment and all, the crazy stuff that goes with an apartment. And that really was my first apartment ever. Granted, I'm in Georgia. Remember, I'm in Georgia. This is in Chicago, so I didn't see the place. I'm just trusting everything is okay. I'm just trusting this is not a scam. And I've already bought my plane ticket. I had already started packing and all of that stuff. And guys, I knew that I needed to record footages because I felt like I would have to say this. That was before I even started my butterfly. We're talking about spring. This started from March. I moved this time in 2020. I'm collecting, evidence because I felt like I would have to tell the story. That was in 2020. I didn't start doing my butterfly story version until 2021, last year, this time. So, but most recently, the moment I decided I need to get back on YouTube to do this season 2, I lost all my footages. So I don't know if I'm going to go through some more things on my computer to see if I stored something somewhere, but I don't have any more footages. And a part of me was sad, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't have nothing to prove. You're just gonna have to believe me. But yeah, that's what happened, and that's how I was able to move. Like some funding and faith in off of dreams, and yeah, I eventually. It was time. My flight was June 30th. I don't know why did I feel like I needed to move by the end of June, but my flight was June 30th, one of the latest flight that night, and I landed here. Chicago is Central Time, and Chicago is Central Time, and so I moved an hour back, and I got here. Maybe it was like 10:30 p.m. Central, which would have been like 11:30 Eastern. So almost literally midnight of July 1st. Got an Airbnb that night, got there, barely got any sleep because the people next door was a guy and a girl they were doing their business. Woke up the next day, got into a Uber, driving down Lakeshore, so when I kept having the dream about the boat, I researched, does Chicago have water? Because I didn't know, because I expected Chicago to look like New York, which I loved when I lived in New York. And then I saw Lakeshore and all the boats, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are the boats in my dream. So when I got the Airbnb that night, I couldn't see anything because it was like night. The next morning, I'm like, they said the apartment will be ready by 9 o'clock. I'm going to be there by 9 o'clock a.m. So I had to get on Lakeshore to go north. I didn't know anything about Chicago then. I didn't know that Chicago was segregated. I didn't know there were sides. But I had to get on Lakeshore to get to my apartment, which was uptown at the time. And I'm going by the lake, and I'm seeing the boats, and I'm freaking out because like these are the boats in my dream, and I'm seeing it like for real in real life. Like it's wild. Like wow. Like how does that even happen? Like how do you dream of something that's real but you don't know that it exists? You know. So yeah, I get to the apartment. I was confused. I couldn't get in, and then somebody could let me in, and then I met the guy, then gave me my keys, and it was a blue fob, and you tap it on the door and it opens like a hotel room. And when I got inside, it definitely looked much smaller in person than it did in the pictures. Okay. It was more accurate to the size of the hotel room in my dream than it was to the pictures. And at first I wanted to be like, oh my gosh, it's much smaller than the pictures advertised. But at the same time, it's like, what are you going to do about it? You have a place to stay. You know, God provided you the space. Is the gray door, is the hotel room. I didn't know anything about studios either until I was moving to Chicago. So it was obviously a studio. It had like a little kitchen area and a nice bathroom. And it was nice. It was cute. And that's where I stayed for like a whole year. Yeah. That's how I moved to Chicago. The day I was traveling, I remember talking to a friend of mine, and I was telling her, I have a feeling the job that I applied for, that I got, it's not going to work out. I feel like God used it as a way to give me an encouragement to move, because I wasn't trying to move. She's like, well, you know, just pray about it. Yeah, it did not work out, guys. However, it worked out. So that's how we're in here. I think I covered everything. Yeah, so I thought this was like the perfect timing to this video, because first of all, July 1st is what I count as when I moved here, or when life started for me in Chicago. It's 2 years since I moved to Chicago. And the first week of July is also when I launched my butterfly story on YouTube, which to me anchored my voice on YouTube and my purpose on YouTube for the what I'm doing on YouTube. And I thought it was a really good time to start season 2 of, you know, me moving to Chicago. Why did I move to Chicago and how I moved to Chicago? I keep looking down because I want to make sure I touch everything that I wrote down, but it looks like I have everything. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, and then subscribe. Put your bell notification on. Goodbye.